Justin Gaethje recently did an interview with the very enthusiastic Brett Okamoto, and when asked about potentially fighting Paddy Pimblett, he said, absolutely not. And if that's the route the UFC wants him to take, then he doesn't believe that they need him anymore. Now listen, I'm not the guy that will defend the UFC most of the time. I'm on the fighter side. But when I hear things like this, or when Yair Rodriguez was asking for nothing else but a title shot, then in those situations, it does make me side with the UFC. And I'm saying that I side with the UFC in this situation, but who knows, maybe the UFC doesn't agree with me, maybe they agree with Gaethje, maybe they will give him what he wants, and I'm saying that shouldn't happen. Gaethje talks about the fact that he's 3-1 in his last 4 fights, meanwhile Oliveira got a title shot from being 2-2 in his last 4 fights, which actually makes sense. I don't think Oliveira deserved that shot to begin with. Arman pulling out of his fight with Islam really did mess up the matchmaking in the lightweight division. But Gaethje knew what the consequences were accepting the Holloway fight. He was in line for a title shot had he not fought Holloway. He was going to fight Islam for the title. He took the fight though, and he said that the UFC begged him to take the fight, and I'm assuming they sweetened the pot by increasing his pay. I seriously doubt they promised him a title shot even if he lost. Now if they did, then he had the point, but I doubt that happened. He then fought Fiziev, which was supposed to be Dan Hooker, but Hooker ended up pulling out with an injury. So he came back with the win even after that Holloway loss, but that's not enough to get a title shot. And if you reward this type of behavior, then why wouldn't every fighter feel this entitled? We the fans called Yair entitled and delusional when he was asking for a title shot, but looking back on it, was he really delusional? For a second there, it looked like he was about to get the Volk fight. Gaethje in this interview also said that he signed up for a merit-based system, and that Arman pulled out of his fight, which is true. And listen, I was advocating for Arman to just get the title shot again against Islam, just rebook the fight before Islam moved up to welterweight. And then I wanted the UFC to make Ilia versus Arman for the vacant lightweight title. I mean, Arman literally beat Charles in his last fight. But now that I'm thinking about it, Gaethje is right about Arman. Arman should not get a title shot. He has not fought in 15 months. So just looking at the title picture, nobody deserves a shot. Somebody has to fight before they get Ilia. The guy who should get the title shot is whoever agrees to fight somebody else. Ask Paddy, Gaethje, and Arman to fight for the number 1 contender spot. Whoever declines doesn't get the title shot or the number 1 contender fight. I would think that Paddy will fight whoever the UFC offers him out of Arman or Gaethje, so whichever one agrees to fight him, that's the number 1 contender fight. And I haven't even talked about Max Holloway yet. I know that Max Holloway has already fought and lost to Ilia at 145, but can Gaethje, Arman, or Paddy even make the argument that they deserve it more than Max? I don't think any of them can confidently say that. If Gaethje genuinely feels like asking him to fight Paddy for the number 1 contender spot is disrespectful, then he can retire. Make title fights mean something. I don't want guys to get title shots and it doesn't really help the champion's legacy. I want guys like Islam and Ilia to be great, but if they're getting handed fighters that haven't earned them title shots, then that will actually end up being used against them and their legacies. Just take this for example. Out of Arman, Paddy, and Gaethje, if Ilia fights any of them right now, he will actually be the one that gets criticized. If he beats Arman, it will be, well, Arman hasn't fought in over a year. He's not ready to just step into a title fight. He went tooth and nail with Charles Oliveira, and Ilia beat Charles Oliveira easily. Arman should have fought somebody else before he got to face Ilia. If he beats Paddy, it will be that Paddy just earned a title shot off of beating Bobby Green and Michael Chandler. Of course Ilia beat him. If he beats Gaethje, well, people still can't shake the image of him getting knocked out by Holloway out of their head. It feels like many people don't even remember the Fiziev fight. Ilia wouldn't get credit for beating Gaethje either. It will be, of course you beat Gaethje. He's an aging, one-dimensional fighter. It's not hard to make number 1 contender fights. Arman versus Paddy and Gaethje versus Hooker. Or you could even mix it up if you feel like. Do Gaethje versus Paddy and Arman versus Hooker. It's not hard to make these fights. There's so many other options than just giving somebody an undeserved title shot. I wonder how the UFC and Dana White feels about the situation now. They already had Jon Jones retire, and that was much more important for Tom to beat Jones and then continue to defend the heavyweight title. But does that apply to Gaethje? If we never get to see Topuria versus Gaethje, is that going to cause anybody to feel some regret that that fight never happened? I don't think so. I don't think anybody's worried about that fight ever happening. Ultimately, my point is, don't make Gaethje versus Topuria. We already don't know how many fights Topuria has left. I know he's young, but the way he talks is that he won't be in this sport for long. Don't waste one of his fights against this version of Gaethje. The only reason why I feel like there's potential that this could work out for Gaethje is because Dana hates Arman. He may not like what Gaethje said, but Tsarukyan seems like enemy number one for Dana in the lightweight division. I can't even imagine what his reaction was when he got the call that Arman had pulled out and they had to give Moicano a title shot. I understand Gaethje's been with the company for a long time and he's fought everybody in the division. But he has to fight somebody else before he gets a title shot. Prove that there's a chance of you beating Ilia. Because as of right now, there's multiple lightweights, I'd say, that have a better chance of defeating Ilia than Gaethje. Not saying that they'll beat Ilia, but I'm saying there's a better chance for them than Gaethje. And I don't know if I can necessarily get mad at Gaethje for having this stance. He's an older fighter, and he wants one last title shot. But I do hope that this wish of his is not granted by the UFC.